Okay, good morning, everyone. Just give me a second here. Just give me a second here. Let's see what's happening here. Yes, you are having class. Just give me a second because I try to connect, huh? Because it seems it takes a while. All right, it seems we are in business now. Just give me a second to shut this off here. Okay, do you hear me well, please, there?
Yes, sir, we hear you well.
Okay, thank you very much, because I have just a bit connection, because yesterday I updated this and it seems it takes a while to get back here, so we're already in business, as people say, huh?
Good, sir.
Yes, okay. All right, this leads me now to catch what we have done last lecture. Okay, now. Yeah, because I'm dealing with mycorrhizae, I think, and okay, just we started with the endomycorrhizae here. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, we continue with this. We call vascular or vesicular mycorrhizae, which is simply it means the endomycorrhizae. Okay. Nothing much better to finish with this one here, I guess. Just a few things to finish. Okay. Last lecture, as a matter of fact, already I explained to you. Okay. And just to give the site here. Okay. Here. Okay. This, of course, shows us what we call the endomycorrhizae inside the cells of the cortex. Okay. And the last thing I mentioned to you, okay, that already I mentioned that relatively large quantities of phosphate detected in the arbosicular, this one, in the arbosicular, which will transport from soil to the root and transfer of mineral from the fungus to the host and of carbohydrates from the host to the fungus. So this already I mentioned to you, so we'll continue about this, which is still under what you call vesicular arbosicular mycorrhizae or the endomycorrhizae. Now, to talk a little bit now, unlike the ectomycorrhizae, did you receive your mark? I sent your mark yesterday. Did you receive it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you have any question, please just send me an email. I know some people sent me already. I didn't answer them yet back. Okay. And then because for every student, I have each mark for every question. And I think, unfortunately, I find some of you, they missed to answer the question. Okay. So we will talk about that maybe later on. Now, unlike the ectomycorrhizae, okay, unlike the ectomycorrhizae, the morphology of the root usually remain unchanged. The morphology of the root, okay, usually remain of the root, usually, okay, okay, usually remains, okay, unchanged. Okay, unchanged, although okay, the root, okay, may become darker, okay, may become darker and slightly thickened and slightly thickened, or more brittle. Okay. Now talk a little bit subtitle, role in minerals and water absorption. What's the role of the endomycorrhizae? Role in mineral and water absorption. Okay. Now, usually to mention a few points here in this regard, not much is already understood actually, that formation of, okay, formation, okay, formation of vesicular or vesicular mycorrhizae, but I'm going to use here the abbreviation, formation of VA mycorrhizae, okay, is favored, okay, is favored by what you call high light intensity, okay, high light intensity, and soils with low fertility, and soils with low, okay, fertility. Now, the other point going to mention here, of course, the vesicular or vesicular mycorrhizae, called the vesicular or vesicular, just VA, the VA mycorrhizae, okay, can increase the growth of the plant, okay, can increase the growth of the plants, of course, by enhancing phosphate uptake, by enhancing phosphate uptake, and also, and perhaps, okay, of other minerals. Okay, and perhaps of other minerals, okay, such as, for example, such as potassium, okay, such as potassium, okay, calcium, okay, and zinc. And also, and the increased uptake of phosphate, especially phosphate is very important in this case, and the increased uptake of phosphate, okay, of phosphate, okay, is especially important of course, in a plant growing in a poor soil. In a plant growing, okay, in a poor soil. Poor soil, of course, it means with low nutrients. On poor soils, okay? And of course, as I showed you, basically the extension of the hyphy will play a big role in this case, okay? And also mention here, of course, now, extension of fungal hyphy, extension, okay, of fungal hyphy over a large area, of course, or areas will increase, okay, will increase, as a matter of fact, we call the absorption of minerals, okay, of minerals by plant root, okay, absorption of minerals by plant roots, okay, by almost, okay, 1800 or 1000, okay, 1800%, okay, so quite a bit of increase, okay. Now, and also the VA mycorrhizae or the VA root or vesicular arbosicular, the VA root also have a greater capacity okay, to take up water okay, and may withstand withstand, okay, withstand, as a matter of fact, the stress of low level, the stress of low level, okay, of available or levels of available moisture. Okay. Some plant families, of course, they require it more than the others here. Okay. Now, the family or the orchid family, as a matter of fact, member of the orchid family, really, it seems they need this endomycorrhizae as an obligate. Otherwise, they cannot grow unless someone can give so much nutrient to the soil. So basically, they need quite a bit of nutrient, and that's why they are very what you call for them to have what you call the endomycorrhizae. To make this point, for example, almost all members of the family orchid or the orchid family, to mention this point here, for example, okay, almost all members, okay, of the orchid family, which is the family is Orchidaceae, okay. It is basically one of what do you call large family, okay, and but mostly, of course, it belongs also to the monocotyledon Orchidaceae, okay. Now, endomycorrhizal formation, called endomycorrhizal formation, in this case, as a matter of fact, is obligate. Is obligate for orchid to grow. Or as I mentioned, or otherwise, then one have to supply quite a bit of a nutrient. Okay, so that's why, okay, they need quite for orchid to grow. Okay, now, by this, I will end up what you call about this, the symbiosis, in which we talk about the lichens and different idea of lichens, and also talk about the mycorrhizae, and we touch, as a matter of fact, on the ectomycorrhizae and the endomycorrhizae. Now I'm going to move to you to another section, okay? Because I think next week is the last week, I guess. No, like Tuesday is the last day, I guess, classes. All right. So basically, still we have lecture on maybe Friday, I guess, and Tuesday. Now, this one I'm going to talk with you now. We'll start now here. A title. Okay. Basically, we talk about mycotoxins. Okay. In food and feed. Okay. Now, as already I mentioned to you, basically that some fungi, as a matter of fact, they produce quite kind of phenolics compound, either coumarins or flavonoids or others. And these, of course, have been produced in a large amount in some of the food. That food becomes really quite what you call toxic. To mention this point here, okay? To mention this, now some fungi, okay, some fungi, including many common molds, including many common molds. Okay, I'm going to mention, okay, mostly, of course, you remember the hyphomycetes. If you remember the hyphomycetes, it's a group of the fungi imperfecti. Okay, and the hyphomycete, basically this is a group of fungi, because remember in fungi imperfecti, we group them based on the asexual production of their spores. And the hyphomycete, if you remember, are those which produce the conidia. And if you remember, because we mentioned, for example, like penicillium and aspergillus, in which basically their sexual life cycle is not known, so they put them with this group. So the hyphomycete is belong to this, and to make sure that mostly belong, okay, or mostly hyphomycetes. And of course, just for you, if you remember it, the hyphomycete, of course, from fungi imperfecti, or the deuteriomycete, so that you can remember that. Now all these produce sometimes these compound phenolics, coumarins, and others, these known as secondary compound, you call them. Now, produce known as secondary metabolites, okay. As a matter of fact, all the oil, the scents, all that basically is a kind of secondary compound, okay? The plant they produce, of course, for many purposes, okay? Metabolites, usually, what they are going to mention, usually are steroids, okay? Carotenoids, okay? Alkaloids, okay? Cyclopeptides, okay? And coumarins. Coumarin also is a group of phenolic compounds, and coumarins. Okay. And as I mentioned, many of these substances, okay, especially the last three here, the alkaloid, the cyclopeptide, these are especially, of course, most of the alkaloid increases are toxic, okay? But of course, that's what happened here, that some of them may also be used in medicine because of, okay. So as I mentioned, many of these substances, especially, okay, especially the last three, okay, are, okay, the last three categories of this alkaloid, this one here, okay, basically are toxic, okay, to animals and also and other microorganisms. Okay, to animals, okay, and to other microorganisms, okay. Also, they are toxic at a very low dosage. At a very low dosage, okay. And basically, these compounds, as a matter of fact, they can stay for a long time. And even if a food, for example, has been contaminated with this quantity, even heating it is not going to go. It may lose about, say, close to 80%, but still it will be there. Okay, and that's what to mention this point here. Okay, at very low dosage and are also persistent. And are also persistent, okay, and often heat stable. And often, going to mention heat stable. Okay. Okay. Heat stable. Okay. Now, as I mentioned to you, to mention this point, of course, such compounds are frequently produced okay, frequently produced, as a matter of fact here, okay, in fungus contaminated foodstuff, produced in fungus contaminated food stuff or stuffs, okay, and they remain even okay, even after processing. Okay. I think you finished on this one. I'm going to move it away here a little bit. Okay. Even after processing. Now, because this is a compound, so sterilization is not going to affect it very much. And that's that sterilization or cooking okay, or cooking stable after processing. Okay. Now, usually these compounds, as a matter of fact, which are produced by the fungi, usually we call them known as mycotoxins. To mention this point here. Now, these are called, or they are called, these compounds, they are called, okay, mycotoxins. They are known as, okay, mycotoxins. Now, basically, there are about 200 species or so. Basically, they produce, or more than, basically, produced by about, 200 compound, produced by almost close to 200 or more than 150 species. To make this point, over 200, over 200, okay, such substances, okay, are produced, okay, by about at least more than 150 different species of fungi, of course, produced by more than 150 different, okay, fungi. I'm going to give some example. You remember we talk in the we talk about the ergot. So now a little bit talk more about it here. So one of this to talk about is known as, we call it ergot alkaloid, because they are rich in alkaloids, and of course they used to give it a name as what you call Saint Anthony fires alkaloid, and known as Saint Anthony's uh, fire. Okay, and basically, of course, according to the some record, which is happening about even before around more than 430 years or 50 years BC, the Spartans, when they have the war in the Athens, of course they eat what you call bread contaminated with this serpent, and of course attack them all, and they start basically what happened, their hand or their arms and feet become all rotten and even fall over because all of that detail. Because of the automation these here, just an example that basically eating, especially rye or bread, contaminated with this. Now, ergotism has been known for thousands of years. To mention this point, we call ergotism. Okay, has been known. Okay, for thousands of years. Okay, and as I mentioned to you, just to as a story, it struck the Spartans. Okay, and around basically 430 BC, 430 BC, during their war with Athens. Athens, and to mention some of the epidemics during the Middle Ages also have, and epidemics, okay, during, okay, the Middle Ages, okay, have left, will have left, as a matter of fact, a bizarre accounts. This is left here, okay, left, okay, called bizarre accounts, okay, in which the screams, okay, the screams of the dying, okay? And also the stenches, okay? Or rotten flesh, okay? And limbs, okay? Actually dropping off. Actually, this is why here, actually dropping off. Simply all are basically recorded, so basically mentioned are recorded in grisly details. Okay. Of course, I mentioned this, but it shows exactly what the impact of this, what you call this alkaloid poison, okay, are recorded in grisly detail. Okay. Of course, now, of course, we know after this, we know that basically they ate what you call rye bread made with the what you call contaminated with the ergot. And as you know, the ergot belongs to that species already. I discussed it with you with the beneficial fungi of the Ascomycete, Calvicifes purpurea, if you remember that, to mention this. Now, to mention this point here, okay, to mention that we know now okay, that the victims of this basically had all eaten bread made okay from grains contaminated okay with sclerotia okay of the ergot fungi. Okay, and as already mentioned, the species for that basically known as Calvicifes purpurea. Which is, as already I mentioned to you, basically it is a prothesia for the prothesia, but it is of course belong to the Ascomycetes. Okay, purpurea. And of course, what happened here now, these sclerotia, that is the point we're going to focus now, you contain a lot of alkaloid to mention this point. These sclerotia okay, contain okay, physiologically okay, active compounds okay, to mention to that contain active compounds okay, of the of alkaloids okay, of two main kinds, which that cause the disease of two main kinds or types. I'm going to mention that. One of them is known as Calvin, based on the name of the species, called Calvin alkaloid. One is known as Calvin alkaloid, and the other one basically it is called known as derivatives of lactic acid. The other one known as derivatives of lactic acid, okay, which is basically kind of amide or peptides, okay, acid, amide, okay, amides or peptides. And now this compound, of course, shows that this is the what you call the compound, but of course it shows the symptom continuation. The disease showed two main patterns. Okay. Show two main patterns. One of them, as a matter of fact, which cause cangeria or cangerius, call it, okay, cangrenous, okay, ergotism, okay. And of course, what happened here, I'm going to explain a bit more. And as I mentioned, the victims, okay, the victims of this disease, okay, end up, what you call with their limbs, for example, either finger, hand, or feet, okay, fingers, hand, and feet or foot, okay, literally sloughed off. Okay, the reason why, because what happened here, I'm going to mention later on, because this alkaloid is making constriction of the veins, and basically when that's done, as a matter of fact, of course, there is no more blood is going to that part of the fingers or the hand, and of course, in the end, of course, that part is going to get rotten, and okay, that was the gangrene. Now, the other one is basically, this is one of the compound. The other one is known as what we call convulsive ergotism. The other one as convulsive ergotism. Think about this one here and this here, basically, that basically affect what you call the nervous or the central nervous system. And to make this point, convulsive ergotism, and here to mention that the central nervous system, which is the most severely affected, is most severely affected. Okay. Now, these symptoms, of course, what you call, we can analyze a little bit here to mention this point. Okay. Now, the symptoms can be analyzed into two main components. To mention this point here, the symptoms okay, can be analyzed okay, can be analyzed into two main components. And of course, as a result, but they're caused by different type of chemicals that we're going to do. Two main components, as a matter of fact, okay, caused by different groups of chemical. Okay. Of chemicals. Now we're going to talk about this one here. Give me a second. Okay, as I mentioned, basically by two groups of chemicals. We'll talk about it now here. Okay. To mention that one of them, as a matter of fact, one effect on muscles. What was the effects? One of these chemical effects, as I mentioned, on muscles. On muscles, in which basically the alkaloid, in this case, what happened here, because the alkaloid affect smooth muscle, affect smooth muscles, all right, and cause what's called vasoconstriction, and cause called okay, constriction, okay, and of course sometimes these compounds, as a matter of fact, later on, of course, being used and what you call put in the use of some medicine. To mention this point here, called vasoconstriction, and that basically constrict the vascular, what's called the veins and so on. To mention the effect, the effect has been put to medical use in two areas. This effect, to mention, this effect has been put okay to medical use, okay, in two areas. Okay. Now, one of these area known as ergotamine, one of these compound known as the ergotamine, okay, tetra or tetrate. Now, this one of compound, and basically it seems to be some of it used in some of the medicine which deal with the migraine. And to make this point here, is useful in management of migraine. Okay. Now the other one, known as ergotamine, and this one basically has been widely used okay, this one has widely used what you call to induce labor. Okay, but as a matter of fact, but not to procure abortion. Okay. Now, so basically, this one of the what you call this one of basically the effect of this compound on the muscle. The other one, which is already mentioned, has the effect on the central nervous system. So we'll talk about that one a little bit here. Now, the effects, what you call on the central nervous system. Okay, and it's basically known as the lysergic acid amide, which is already mentioned here, known as lysergic acid amides. Okay, and particularly the compound here known as particularly known as what's it called? Going to put it down for you, called lysergic acid. Okay, diethylamide. That in particular called diethyl. Continue here, amide, which is basically that will start for the kind of drugs people use somehow, which is very potent drugs known as LSD. Okay, as I mentioned, these are basically dramatically potent hallucinogens. Hallucinogens. Okay. So basically, I just put a summary about this alkaloid of the ergot and the impact it will do on the what you call in the body. Okay. Now I'm going to move. This is of course one of the things produced by this alkaloid of this sclerosis. Now I'm going to talk about also other thing in the feed, for example, which is first one known as aflatoxin or aflatoxin. Okay, which is basically to mention this point here now. Okay, now for title of another poison known aflatoxins, which is basically this one is basically produced mainly by what you call Aspergillus flavus. Okay, and what happened here, as I mentioned to you, basically in 1960s and so on, especially in England, they saw a lot of what you call animals in hundred or thousand dying, like chickens, cattle, and so on. And in the end, after when they tried to figure out what's the cause, and then they find basically in the end there was a result of the feed which they brought from Brazil, which include in it what you call like nuts. And of course, they realized in the end that there is a fungus was contaminated, or fungus was growing in this one and producing this mycotoxin. And that's why I find these days, for example, especially like peanut and others, always being treated not to avoid this kind, because that basically the source which the fungus can grow on. And to mention this point here. Now, so subtitle again here called aflatoxin or aflatoxins. Okay, and to make basically this is basically really toxins, and also at the same time also mutagens. Okay, and also at the same time also it is carcinogenic. And to mention this point here, carcinogens. Okay. As I mentioned to you basically in this one here that I talk about as awareness of this mycotoxin, awareness of this mycotoxin, okay, or toxins, began 1960s or 1960, okay, when tens of thousands of, as I mentioned to you, of turkey polio, okay, in England, okay, began to die. Began to die from a mysterious disease of unknown etiology. At the time, until of course they figured later on, of a mysterious called disease, okay, of unknown etiology or etiology. Etiology. And also other places in Britain also what happened here, like other animals also was dying. And to mention elsewhere in Britain, of elsewhere Britain, also what happened here, large losses of other animals for example, such as ducklings, calves, okay, and pigs were affected. Okay. As I mentioned too, finally, of course, they find the reason in this feed, which is brought basically what you call kind of Brazilian peanuts. Okay, to mention to you. Finally, the investigation. Okay, finally, the investigation resulted, okay, in a type of fungus growing. Okay, this fungus was growing, as a matter of fact, and producing these toxins, growing on the Brazilian peanuts. Okay, peanuts, okay, meal, okay, and the animal feed. Okay. And of course, as I mentioned to you, basically the fungus which was growing there was this Aspergillus flavus, and from it, and basically the result of this terminology, we call it the mycotoxin, which is now kind of applied on any toxin produced by any fungus. Okay, to mention to you here, and the responsible fungus of course, was found to be, as a matter of fact, as I mentioned, to be here, okay, that Aspergillus Aspergillus flavus. And also, and that's why, and thus the and so the toxin was called, known as aflatoxins. Aflatoxin. Okay. And then, of course, in the end, they did the chromatography on this and to see the compound. Basically, they found this is a very, what you call, potent type of toxin, which is they found on the right, and even it is very carcinogenic, and so on. To mention this point here, chromatographic analysis. Okay, called chromatographic analysis showed that the aflatoxin this aflatoxin, okay, as a matter of fact, contain 4 toxic compounds. 4 toxic compounds, and basically all of these are quite potent compounds, okay, and soon were discovered that aflatoxin toxins are extremely potent. Extremely potent carcinogen in rats. Okay. So basically, this is one of the mycotoxin, or the what you call the toxin which you produce and found. And also, of course, all these basically sometimes incident occur, and then what happened here at the beginning, they don't know about it, but when they find it, they then have to find what is the host and what is the fungus. Now, the other phenomenon, I'm going to talk about it here. Just I'm going to put this down here, just give me a second. Okay. So do you see this one here? Okay. Now, the other one I'm going to talk about, known as also mycotoxin. Okay. Subtitle, mycotoxins. Did you finish from this one? Did you finish from it? Not yet? Okay. Subtitled now, mycotoxins and esophageal cancer. And esophageal cancer. Okay. This is basically the incident of this. They find sometimes some people basically they belong in South Africa. Okay, it seems they do basically they prefer to make them I think the home breed beers and make it from corn, and sometimes they prefer it to be what you call the mold because it gives us some sort of taste. But of course, at least 200 people or more, sometimes they will die or they suffer quite. And of course, they find this as a result of fungus was growing, and these fungus basically, and the toxin and so on. So we're going to discuss this one here. Now, as I mentioned, the incidence of this esophageal cancer, to mention this point, that incidence, okay, of esophageal cancer, this is occur among known as Zahuza. Zahuza people, okay, in some part of Transnistrië, which is in South Africa. In some parts of this area known as Transnistrië. Okay, sorry. I'll put it down for you here is better. As I mentioned, basically in South Africa. And I talk about this basically has also been connected. This has been connected. This incidence has been connected. Okay. With the consumption with the consumption of mold metabolites in food, of mold metabolites in food, and as I mentioned, mainly corn. Mainly corn, okay, and also and found basically and in the native beer, okay, and which is made by a preference from moldy grain. They use them because it's supposed to give a better taste, but of course it's very poisonous. Okay, and the native beer, okay, which is made okay by a preference okay from moldy grain. Okay. Now, basically, as a matter of fact, the fungus or the species we found, it was Fusarium. And this Fusarium, as a matter of fact, even before we used to prepare it here in culture, some of the species, and now basically no way we have not prepared it, or we have to seal the petri dish very much, as a matter of fact here. So basically, so the suspected fungus, and also, as a matter of fact, also belong what you call, it is from the fungi imperfecti. Okay, so fungus is known as Fusarium. I don't know if I have here. Basically, it's to produce a conidia, but the conidia produced by this fungus is septate. Usually, they produce like a conidia pointed like this, okay, and septate like this. This is their conidia they produce. It looks like this, okay. Now, the spot fungus, as I mentioned, was Fusarium, okay, Moniforium, which is the species here, okay, and of course the active compound, which we call the metabolite, in this case we name it based on the fungus, and we call, and the suspect metabolite and the suspect metabolite, of course, is known as fumonisin. We call the fungus, the compound called fumonisin, okay? And also basically a secondary metabolite or a secondary compound, which could be kind of phenolic compound, okay? Which is also as a secondary, we call the secondary metabolites, okay? Now to basically, as I mentioned to you here, the symptom of this, okay, what is occurring in this one, okay? Well, I have a few minutes left as a matter of fact here. Now, usually each year in South Africa, okay, each year in South Africa, okay, about 200 people sorry about this. About 200 people, and okay, 200 people from what you call, they suffer from unnamed we call hemorrhagic disease. Disease, okay, and of course with other kind of symptom with additional thermonogenic effects, with additional okay, thermonogenic okay effect. A thermogenic basically affect simply it is a kind of a neurotoxin that affect the neurons. I put it down for you here, known as a neurotoxin. Okay, as neurotoxin effects. And in addition to that, also there is another kind of symptom going to mention to you effects, plus associated okay, liver and kidney symptoms. Okay, liver and kidney symptoms, okay. And of course, all that basically believed to come from that, what you call, from people, sometimes also, especially in Africa, especially they use a lot of sorghum. They made it from the sorghum, okay, as we use here, mostly the wheat, they use their most commonly, they use sorghum. And to mention to you, okay. Now, this complex, syndrome, okay, is believed, I tried to finish before they cut me off this, what you call, is believed, okay, to result from, okay, from drinking okay, home brewed beer or native sorghum beer, from drinking home, okay, brewed okay, native or sorghum beers, okay. And of course, what happened here, because it seems the weather is stored, usually most of the time is often contaminated with this fungus, okay, which is oxy, okay, and often contaminated, often or often contaminated, okay, with at least two mycotoxins. I'm going to mention this and stop my lecture because I don't like this to cut me off, and also for you. Okay, with two mycotoxins, two type of this compound. One is known as tinozoonic acid, two mycotoxin. One is known as tinozoonic.
Sir, can you move the page up? Thank you.
Okay, tinozoonic acid. Okay. And the other one, okay, tinozoonic acid. And basically this one, this acid being produced, okay. And the other one, just give me a second, known as cytochilisin. Okay, this is two compound. Now this one here, tinozoonic acid, if cut me, I will repeat again. Basically produced by two fungus, okay? Produced by alternaria, produced by this fungus known as alternaria. One species here, and also produced by another species known as Phoma sorghina, which is also grows on the sorghum, known as Phoma sorghina. Okay, so this tinozoonic produced by these two fungus, and the cytochilisin is basically produced by Aspergillus fungus, which is known as Aspergillus. Okay, Aspergillus clavatus. Okay, and then I will end my lecture here, because next lecture I'm going to give you at least 3 or 4 or maybe more kind of these feed, but some by different species, and also being incidents sometimes occur in animals or in a human, and then after that investigation, we find basically it is a result of fungus contamination. Okay, so basically wish you all good. I think you received your mark yesterday. Okay, okay, but if anybody has anything, just let me know. Okay.
Professor, I just had a question about the exam format.
For the final, you mean?
Oh, yeah, the final exam.
Yeah. It's going to be almost the same, but also I'm going to send you more clarification. Okay.
Would we have any multiple choice or any of?
I don't think I'm going to give multiple choice in these finals.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.